All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lights Out podcast. We are hours removed from the first Premier Boxing Champions pay per view of the year, and there is a lot to talk about. A lot has gone by. The world of boxing continues to impress us, in some ways positive, in other ways negative. We'll definitely get into it. We'll definitely get into it. All right, let's before we get into this PBC Fundora versus Thurman main card that took place last night at the time of this recording, let's go ahead and look at the March matchups of the month brought to you by The Ring Magazine. We are now removed from every single fight listed on the March matchups of the month. Of course, the first one we talked about in the last episode, it was the main event of Zuffa 4 for the inaugural Zuffa Cruiserweight Championship, Jao Pataya versus Brandon Glanton. We talked about that in the last episode, and now we will focus on the rest of the matchups of the month list. So on the 14th, we saw matchups listed from two different shows. Okay, one of them was a main event in the number 3 junior lightweight in the world, Anthony Kakashi, defeating the number 8 junior lightweight in the world, Jazza Dickens, by decision, uh, winning, becoming the new WBA junior lightweight champion. Welcome in, Ant. What did you think about this fight? Sound off.
Hey, what's up, man? I'm doing real well. All right, Dickens versus Kakashi, man. It was definitely interesting, man. This is a real interesting fight. Of course, Anthony Kakashi got the win. I like that Anthony stayed composed, man. He didn't get dragged into Dickens's chaos. The cleaner punch, he landed cleaner punches, and he had the better the strike collection. He controlled the tempo too, man. He fought his fight. He didn't fight Dickens pace. I like that. I like this fight. This was very he was very calm and composed, and he did not he didn't um he didn't want to go into the chaos, man, which is really good. I think that really helped him. And then Dickens, man, I felt like he was too scrappy. I think not enough structure. I think his defense was too messy, man. Like, he got caught up in exchanges when he didn't need to, and I think that really lost him the fight. I think, and this is the only real critique I have on Kakaske, is that he did not fully step on the gas pedal when he should have. He had control. He just did not want to. Felt like he was slamming on the brakes more than he was stepping on the gas pedal. But it was interesting, man. I mean, he's a Kakashi is definitely a world level operator, man. He's not dominant. He's not a dominant elite fighter by no stretch of the imagination, and I still think he does need a statement to be taken a little bit more seriously at the top. But I think this was a very impressive performance. I think very good win, but I do think he needs to maybe get a big statement win to be taken seriously.
Yeah, at the very least, he was able to give the people a reason to have a good St. Patrick's Day. Irish-born Anthony Kakashi winning the WBA junior lightweight title there, days away from St. Patrick's Day a couple weeks ago. And then we had three fights leading up to, or should I say, two title fights leading up to this main event that took place on the same day, the 14th of March. We saw ring champion Gabriela Fundora defeat Viviana Ruiz by knockout to retain the undisputed flyweight championship. We saw ring champion Oscar Colazo defeat Jesse Otto by TKO to retain the WBA and WBO strawweight championship. And then this led to the main event, which was Arnold Barboza Jr. defeating Kenneth Sims Jr. by decision. This welterweight bout closed out the March 14th evening. Tell me, what did you think about these three fights? Very fun show here.
I'll start with Oscar. Dude, that was vicious, man. His body attack was absolutely vicious. And the one thing I like about Oscar is he doesn't rush. He takes his time, and he basically broke Hero down like systematically. He didn't like run out of like stamina. He didn't run out of like he literally just like wait. He literally waited, and his ring IQ is absolutely up to here right now. It's literally all the way up here. Hero, I feel like he didn't offer too much. I think he was very, I guess, hesitant. I feel like he didn't really offer any real resistance late in that fight, and then yeah, I mean, I think Oscar fought really well. He's very elite at 105, man. He I do think they need to give him better opponents, but I mean, he's as legit as they come, and that'll help me transition into Fundora. Um, this was just absolute dominance, man. Absolute dominance from start to finish. Size and skill really helps you win fights like these, especially at flyweight, and that proved it, man. And I like that Fundora was very sharp and aggressive and didn't waste much time. They got to the point basically. And Ruiz really couldn't deal with range at all. This fight felt very one-sided almost. And my only real key takeaway here is I think Fundora is pound for pound level ready already. I think. What was the third fight?
Barbosa versus Sims, the decision welterweight fight that closed out this specific show.
Okay, get there. Here we go. Barbosa, man, dude, this was a damn good fight. Absolute masterclass in terms of control by Arnold. He managed the distance very well, and he was very jab heavy and extremely disciplined. He looked extremely comfortable moving up to 147, and that's the one thing I liked about this. My only real thing with him is he didn't go for the finish like at all. It felt like he kind of coasted a little bit. I think that kind of didn't make me zone out, but it made me kind of like, you have him on the ropes. Like, why not go for the finish? Like, you had him there. Sims, I felt like he was way too passive. He waited way too long to engage, and I think that's what really messed him up. And dude, Sims had his moments. Like I don't know how many moments, but he had like no urgency in those little moments that he had. No urgency at all. Absolute none. Dude, Sims looked skilled, but I don't think he's built for the top, man. I don't think so. Especially not these high pressure fights. But on the other side, Barboza, dude, he's a problem technically, but I think he lacks the killer instinct at the same time. It's a very interesting case, I think, in this fight. This fight was very interesting. It was just the lack of killer instinct by Barboza really kind of, I don't know. It was odd, I guess, is the way I'll close it out.
Yeah, there's definitely more to be seen by both guys. I would even say in the second half of 2026, I'd love to see their next chapter, each of them respectively. I'm sure Barbosa will get a hopefully bigger fight, and Sims will find another fight to have, and maybe Sims will find himself victorious there. If not, maybe looking into some trouble. But I think Barbosa is ready to fight a ranked welterweight, and we can answer those questions that you have in terms of his killer instinct and all that good stuff. Nonetheless, man, we had the 21st of March, Saturday, we saw the number one middleweight in the world retain his WBC middleweight title, Carlos Adames, right? Adames or Adams? I get him mixed up with Willie Adames from baseball.
I think it's Adames.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Adames. You know, all these names
Adames.
of boxing. It gets crazy, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. Anywho, the number one middleweight in the world, Carlos Adames, went ahead and retained the WBC middleweight title by decision against the number 8 middleweight in the world, Austin Williams. This was definitely a big fight. Fun fight. I think Adames really showed that he is a cut above Austin Williams here. and he's ready to face somebody in the top three there. Um, the middleweight division of boxing in its entirety can use a humongous fight. Adames versus top three, according to the Ring Magazine fighter, right? Middleweight. But nonetheless, what did you think about the showings from Carlos Adames and Austin Williams here?
I mean, you kind of said everything that I have under my notes right here, man. I mean, he was very calm, under control, under pressure. He picked his shots smartly, and he basically neutralized Williams' aggression, which was really cool. I liked this. Was a very fun fight. I liked the. I think this was a very good performance. This was a fun fight. Um, I feel like Williams is a little bit too predictable with some of his shots. I feel like he came forward with like no real like variation, and that's the one thing that kind of drives me a little like nuts. I think is that like you kind of just throw this. I mean, there's only so many punches you can throw, right? So I mean, but you gotta like kind of like mix it up a little bit too. But Adamas really impressed me here, man. I think he's a really solid champion. I think he's definitely deserves that number one next to his name. I think the middleweight division has something special here, man. I think Adamas was really showcased himself uh, on March 21st, man. And Austin Williams, man, he'll bounce back for sure. I think this isn't the end for him. I'm sure he'll be back with the vengeance. I'm sure. Hopefully, we get this fight again. I think it will come down. It'll happen down the line. But this is a fun fight. It was a really fun fight.
This was a fight that I was really looking forward to. I believe it was supposed to happen in January, if I'm not mistaken. It was a shame to see that it wasn't going to happen, and then we go ahead and get it rescheduled here. And yeah, we get a definitive answer from Carlos Adames. Hopefully, we have a big fight in his future in the second half of 2026. And yeah, I have no doubts that Austin Williams will bounce back as well because he does have good technique, and I think he does have fantastic potential, even if it didn't show this month. Anywho, before we get into the first PBC pay per view of the year, hours before this pay per view main card, we had a Queensberry event that was also listed in the March matchups of the month, particularly the main event. But Queensberry does something called the Magnificent Seven, where they have 7 main card fights, just 7 fantastic fights for the fans. And the main event of the Magnificent Seven was, ironically enough, the number 7 heavyweight in the world, Moses Atama, defeating Jermaine Franklin by knockout. This was a fun, fantastic heavyweight fight. Moses Atama is the future of the heavyweight division and the babyface of the heavyweight division right now. What did you think about this fight, and who do you want to see Atama fight next?
I don't know. That's a really tough question. I feel like I have to go and look. I would have to go back and look at the rankings for that for Otama. But dude, dude, I fucking love Otama, dude. I love this kid. He's extremely aggressive, but he's controlled. He's very like he has fast hands for a heavyweight, and that's something you don't see in a lot of these heavyweights. A lot of these heavyweights rely on power more than speed. But Atama's like, nope, I'm relying more on my speed than anything. Dude, this was awesome. I think he's a little raw defensively. I think he got hit more times than he should have, but I mean it'll come with time. I'm sure that it means 7th ranked, so I mean he'll learn as he goes. I think as far as Jermaine Franklin goes, man, I think his conditioning, well, lack thereof, pretty much faded like really badly. I think as the fight was going on, like this was not the fight. He was very durable, but didn't have like much didn't have much conditioning, and that really showed that during that fight. And dude, Otama's definitely a future contender. There's no question about it. Like no question that Otama's a future contender. But I don't know. Like I mean, who do you think he should fight? I mean, I could pull up the rankings for the middleweights.
Oh, you good, man. I'm just this is a perfect segue into the first PBC pay-per-view of the year that we got to enjoy just hours after Queensberry's Magnificent 7 show. streaming on DAZN for a UK audience, which for the United States meant that the main card took place during midday, right? From about noon to 3, if I'm not mistaken. Noon to
Right.
4, maybe. Um, Ultimately, I think who can be next for Itama was a fight that hopefully gets a later date confirmed. This was a fight that was supposed to co-main the first PBC pay-per-view of the year, that was supposed to co-main Fundora versus Thurman. It was Frank Sanchez versus Richard Torres Jr. in an IBF heavyweight title eliminator. I think the winner of this fight could really get momentum if they were to go right into a program, a fight with Moses Itama. I think that's a heavyweight fight that gets the people talking. Whether it's Frank Sanchez, whether it's Richard Torres Jr., I think you see the winner of this take on Moses Itama, the winner of that fight for the IBF heavyweight title.
I agree. And I actually did a little digging. A lot of people are actually comparing Atama to like his rise to like Tyson almost. It's interesting. I think the fight that's coming, that fight is definitely, no matter who wins, I think Atama like could definitely like hold his own. I think whether it's against either one of them, I think it would be a real interesting fight. Like that the heavyweight ranking, the heavyweight is so stacked right now, dude. It's insane how stacked heavyweight is.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I would like to see either Sanchez or Torres Jr. take on Moses Itama. I would really like to see that happen. First of all, that match has to happen first, right? It was supposed to be the co-main of Fundora versus Thurman. It doesn't happen. There's an injury. Instead, we get Jonas Tellez defeating Brian Mendoza by decision in the co-main before we get to Fundora versus Thurman. Before we get to that, before I hear your thoughts on the co-main of the PBC's first pay-per-view of the year, I do want to highlight the other two fights on the undercard of this main card here for the PBC. We saw the number 2 middleweight in the world, Yoenli Hernandez, defeat Toro Gasha by TKO. And then to open up the main card, we saw Gergen Hovhannisyan defeat Cesar Navarro by TKO in a heavyweight bout. And it's cool to see the TKOs, of course, but ultimately, are we, maybe the Gergen versus Caesar fight to open up the main card was to be highly contested of some sorts. Obviously, it turned out not to be. But nobody expected Hernandez to have trouble with Terrell Gasha. And then, of course, Tellez does his thing against Brian Mendoza, getting the win by decision. And what was a solid fight. I just think the way losing the IBF heavyweight title eliminator here in the co-main really hurt the main card and the excitement for this first PBC show of the year for me personally. I want to get your thoughts on the co-main before we get into the main event. I also want to know if the canceled IBF heavyweight title eliminator had any effect on your anticipation for this PBC card.
I think a little bit because I really wanted to see this fight. But I mean, it sucks that the injury happened. I mean, injuries happen all the time. But it's like when you really want to see a fight, man, the injury just sweeps it under the sweeps pulls the rug underneath you, and it sucks. And that I really wanted to see that fight because then I feel like that would have determined. It really would have determined a lot of things. I think main event, co-main, dude. It was it was fun. It was a fun fight. I think Tellez fought really well, man. I think he showed that grit. He fought through that adversity. Even though apparently on commentary they're saying that he had a broken nose, which honestly shows that warrior mentality, which I love. It was a good pacing over 10 rounds, and then of course Brian Mendoza brought pressure, and he made it a real fight. I think that's what made it fun. I think that's what made this fight really fun. I think Tejas is honestly is. I think he could be something special here, man. I think he. We do need. I do think we need a signature win from him, but I do think like he's something special. I think at the same time, but I do think he needs a signature win. Mendoza is still that guy as well who I feel like basically letting him test out prospects right now, but he can't seem to get over that hump, which is very weird. It's like it's this is basically like you passed, but you didn't ace type fight.
Yeah, I'll definitely be eager to see more from Tejas. I think if they really wanted to, they could have him fight Fundora. I would, of course, love to see Fundora, the number two super welterweight of the world, according to the Ring magazine, who clearly gets a humongous win against Keith Thurman here within 6 rounds, gets the TKO, looks dominant. Too much for Thurman to handle, as you predicted in our last episode. If they wanted to do Fundora versus Tejas, they could. What I would much rather see is obviously Fundora versus Xander Zayas or something like that. But obviously, due to his build and his reach, I mean, we talk about boxers, avoiding fights. There's no guy to avoid quite like Fundora, right? You almost can't blame people for wanting to avoid him with those long arms. There's just not much you can do there, man. He's going to collect every title that he wants, whether it's in super welterweight, whether it's in middleweight, whether it's super middleweight at some point. We'll see. Anywho, what are your thoughts on Fundora versus Thurman? And would Fundora versus Tejas be exciting for you personally?
Oh man, dude. Like I said on the last episode, I called this fight. I got this fight correct. I didn't think I would get this fight correct. I thought this fight would go a little bit longer. But man, I think I even texted you after the fight, holy crap, this is complete domination, man. Who wants to fight Sebastian Fundora at this point? Like, it's crazy, man. Like, that he uses that reach and that like height to his advantage to the max, bro. Um, Dude, this was just pure domination. I even have it written down. This was just pure domination, absolute. Fundora fought the perfect fight, man. Absolutely, he used everything in his toolkit, and it worked. Dude, Thurman, his inactivity showed completely. Like, this was, I felt. I mean, I saw at the post fight presser that he said that he felt like this fight should have not been stopped, but honestly, dude, it should have. He was getting destroyed like badly, especially in that 6th round. Like, it was bad. Like, and I think Thurman, man, I think maybe one more fight for him, and then he probably hangs it up. But this is an absolute mismatch, man. And Fundora has officially arrived, man. And yeah, I think as far as that Zayas fight goes, man, I think that would be a really fun fight to watch. Xander Zayas versus Fundora. That'd be awesome because not only just because of like the rivalry is there, but also like I think that there would just be an interesting clash of styles. I think.
Yeah, man, definitely. Yeah, it was one of those things where, Fundora hasn't. The Fundora versus Thurman thing looked cool, but I think we all knew what was coming. We all knew Fundora was going to stomp him. And yeah, I mean, Thurman looked pretty bad within 6 rounds of this fight. I thought it was a good call for the ref to stop it here. I agree. And, what was meant to be a solid opening to 2026 by the PBC ends up being okay, really, in my opinion. I just think we're in an era of boxing where the PBC absolutely has to put their best foot forward to, stay in the fight here.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
I look for they have their Cinco de Mayo show lined up, which we'll get to in early May, obviously, which will be humongous. And is there anything you have to say before we move on about this fight or anything?
I did want to ask you about I actually wrote some matchups down for Fundora. I'm gonna go through 2 of them because we already talked about the Zayas fight. How do you feel about Fundora versus Ennis? How do you think that fight would go?
Honestly, man, I am putting my money on Fundora against any of the guys in that division. I think Fundora's determination, his technique, and his build, looking like a 2K character out here. Like, I really do think he's got it on lock. I really think he'll, if he wants to be undisputed at super welterweight, junior middleweight, whatever you want to call it, then that's in store for him. As long as I think he gets the fight for the IBF super welterweight title, if I'm not mistaken. That's the one that Xander Zayas doesn't have, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think they're trying to unify the titles. I think right now. I could be,
Yeah,
but yeah. I do want to see him versus Ortiz Jr. Virgil Ortiz Jr. That'd be a cool fight to watch because Ortiz is one of the elite welterweights, and he's a proven star. And I think this, if he moves up, I think this would really excite the fans. I do think Ennis versus Fundora is definitely the matchup right now. I think that's the one, if not him versus Zayas. But I mean, it's interesting, man. It's fun to be Fundora right now.
yeah, and it's fun to watch him, right? And it's fun to anticipate what's next because there's so much they can do at the super middleweight division, and obviously he can move up to middleweight if he really wanted to. There's a lot you can do there. It's kind of easy pickings if he wants to dominate at middleweight. That's kind of a hot take, but I have a lot of faith in Fundora, right? Like he has it all in my opinion. He's a younger fighter, so obviously it's not like he's being fully recognized for his greatest potential quite yet. I think his greatest fights are honestly yet to come, but I think he's in a great position whether he wants to stick around in his current division or move up. He'd be great. He'd be great either way. Like there's almost too many fights to like speculate on. You know what I mean? And it was cool. It was cool to see him close out the first PBC show of the year. And the PBC is just getting started. They have a lot more in store for us, especially with that big Cinco de Mayo card that we're not going to talk about too much on this episode, but we will get around to talking about soon enough.
Right.
Yeah, man. We don't even have to wait until Cinco de Mayo to see more from the PBC because this upcoming weekend we actually have Tim Tszyu taking on Dennis Nuria for the IBF International Middleweight title, getting the full PBC coverage, getting the Amazon Prime showcase. Here is Tim Tszyu and Dennis Nuria for that IBF International Middleweight title. To reiterate, it's not a pay-per-view, so we're able to stream it. If you have Amazon Prime, you could stream it. You don't have to pay the $40 or whatever. But yeah, it was cool to see the PBC announce this. And then obviously this will be the last PBC event before we get to that Cinco de Mayo pay-per-view, before we get to Zerto versus David Benavidez and that big cruiserweight clash. And then we got to get into some of the fun stuff that we were planning on talking about. Hey, is there anything you want to talk about in terms of Tim Tszyu versus Dennis Nordia before we get into the fun stuff?
I don't think so, man. I think Tszyu fight's gonna be fun to watch. I think Tszyu gets the win, but I don't think there's really much like I need to really say. I think as far as this fight,
It's a tune-up fight, right? And it's actually taking place in Australia, but it has that American time slot. It actually goes on this upcoming Saturday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So they're in Australia doing this fight. This really is a tune-up fight for Tszyu. That's why it's not exactly a pay-per-view here. It's just a streaming show for the
right.
PBC. But ultimately, I'm sure it'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be definitely fun for sure. Absolutely, I think this tune-up fight, man. I mean, these fights aren't as bad as people think they are. I mean, these tune-up fights can be fun because I mean, obviously depends on who's fighting, but I think it's gonna be a interesting fight. Obviously, Tszyu wins, but yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a fun night in Australia.
Yeah, man. All right. I think we've beat around the bush enough. I think it's time to talk about the IBF because the IBF has made waves. There have been two titles stripped, two IBF titles stripped. One of them we're not going to get too hot about, right? That's Yanibek, right? Yanibek Alim Kanuli. Hopefully, I did justice to that last name. He was stripped of the IBF middleweight title, testing positive on PEDs, got him stripped by the IBF. That one's a little more understandable, but this next one is definitely one that I want to get your opinion on, and I know we're about to have some fun here, to say the least, because it is official. The IBF has stripped Jai Opataya of the IBF Cruiserweight Championship for seemingly no reason except the reason of fighting for that inaugural Zuffa Cruiserweight Championship. So Jai Opataya, who undoubtedly, in the opinions of many, in the minds of many, is one of, if not the greatest cruiserweight in the world right now. He's the Ring Magazine Cruiserweight Champion. Recently becomes the first ever Zuffa champion, the inaugural Zuffa Cruiserweight Champion. And the IBF strips him, seemingly blackballing or blacklisting Zuffa boxing from operating at a high level. A lot going into this. I don't want to get too much into it. I just want to get your reaction. What do you think of the IBF stripping Jai Opataya?
Oh, here we go. Oh my God, this is gonna be fun. Bullshit, dude. Absolute bullshit. Let's get something straight here, dude. Opataya has never been beaten in the ring, and yet he's still being stripped of his title twice. And this time it happens after he dominated his opponent and won a title and won another world title in the same night decisively and legitimately over 12 rounds. And dude, like, why is this happening? This makes you, it does, who does this benefit? It doesn't benefit Opataya. It doesn't benefit the IBF. It just makes everybody look like idiots. It makes the IBF look incompetent. Like, god damn, like, what is there really much I can even say? Like, I love Opataya. I think he's the best in the fucking world right now. But they're not doing. What the hell are we? What are they doing with him, bro? They're treating him like shit. Like, come on. Like, what are we doing here? Like, oh my god, bro. Like, oh, he's the best in the world, and you basically just take the title off him just because he doesn't want to play ball. Like, come on, man. Like, who? Nobody benefits from this. Not the IBF, not Opataya, not Zuffa. Nobody. That's not integrity. That's bureaucracy, man. It's bullshit.
Yeah, dude, it's beyond fucking ridiculous, honestly. The sport can't get out of its own way. You had one of the biggest fights in years being Canelo versus Crawford for the WBC to shortly after that fight go and strip Crawford of the WBC super middleweight title. Ultimately, Crawford retires after that. And then you get Shakur Stevenson in the first Ring Magazine event of the year go and beat Teofimo Lopez for the Ring Magazine and WBO Junior Welterweight Championship. For the WBC to shortly step in and strip Stevenson of his WBC lightweight championship. What the hell? For what? For what? Because he's buddies with Crawford, and these sanctioning bodies seem to run like crooks. You know, the sport can't get out of its own way. And then, we then once again see the sport get in its own way as the IBF strips Jai Opataya of the IBF Cruiserweight Championship. Jai Opataya has made that IBF Cruiserweight Championship mean something. If anything, I thought it was a great prestige for the IBF to be represented. Out of all the four sanctioning bodies, the IBF is the one that's represented in the first ever Zuffa Championship match. And, they go ahead and make asses of themselves, very similar to what the WBC has been doing recently, and strip Opataya. So Opataya can't be an IBF champion, but Ryan Garcia can be a WBC champion. Obviously, he won that fight against Barrios pretty soundly. But Ryan Garcia was coming off a loss before he fought for that WBC welterweight title.
Yeah, and then he also didn't he. Well, he also tested positive. So how? So what sense does that make?
Crooks, brother, crooks.
Like
Bullshit.
it's
You know, I
it's so
understand that the alphabet soup, the WBA, WBC, WBO, and IBF are the titles that mean something right now. I understand that. Those were the titles that meant something for decades. It's only very recently that the Ring Magazine Championship has really stepped into the role that it was meant to play. And obviously, Zuffa is brand new on the block. Yes, these are the alphabet soup titles, are the titles that mean something, but goodness gracious, the actions that we see these sanctioning bodies take reflects the opposite. These titles are just arm candy. You know what I mean? Like right now, what means everything to me is the ring championship. The alphabet soup titles are kind of just there. And they're bullshit with stripping Shakur Stevenson, stripping Crawford, stripping Jai Opataya now. That that does long-term damage to the reputation of belts that have been around for decades. Like, what are they doing? They have every opportunity, even with Zuffa boxing existing, they have every opportunity to carve a better path into the future and remain a humongous part of boxing, the humongous part of boxing. But they can't get out of their own way. They can't get out of their own way, and that's why Zuffa boxing exists, and that's why Ring Magazine is in that's why Turkey Al Sheikh is in boxing, and that's why Dana White is now in boxing, because the sport can't get out of its own way. And if it doesn't learn how to get out of its own way and do away with this bullshit, then guess what? TKO is going to be all over boxing, which I know you boxing fans don't want. Believe it or not, Ant and I don't want that either. We can agree with y'all that TKO is a bunch of scumbags. All right. We may watch Zuffa, we may analyze Zuffa, we may even support Zuffa here on this podcast, but we absolutely support Zuffa to the extent that it is there to challenge the norm that has been corruption in boxing for decades, since the beginning. They need to be checked. These sanctioning bodies need to be checked. Anything more to add here?
oh my god, bro. I mean, you kind of took pretty much everything out of my mouth, bro. I mean, this is let's just not pretend this isn't rare. Let's not pretend this. I mean, Stevenson called out the WBC. Obviously, the whole Terrence Crawford thing, like this is so dumb, bro. This is the absolute pettiness of the IBF needs to be fucking studied, bro. Like it's so bad, it's so crooked. It's like I'm trying to sort of preach your words here, but Opataya should have never lost a title just because of the never lost a title just for winning a fight, just for fighting for another promotion. If the IBF, the WBC, and all these other ones are so entitled to make with politics, then why bother? Why bother? Why bother having championships at this point?
You know, I talked to a good friend of mine who is definitely who grew up a boxing fan the way that we did, right? And obviously a lot like I did over the past several years until recently, like me, he fell out of love with boxing. He kind of stopped watching it. He kind of walked away from the sport as a fan. And here we are having breakfast a couple weeks ago, and I'm sitting here explaining the current state of boxing and how there's some synergy, there's some momentum, because there truly is. And in that conversation, I was like, oh, yeah, and the sanctioning bodies are being, assholes as they usually are, can't get out of their own way, being a disservice to the sport as they usually are. And what I heard my good friend say next surprised me heavily. What my good friend basically said is boxing has to move on from these sanctioning bodies, which is a really hot take, right? This is not something you hear me saying personally. You do not, I don't think you've said it either. I don't, if I'm not mistaken, you haven't said it either,
No, I haven't.
right?
I've never said.
Okay. Then this whole show has not said anything like that. We have never once said that boxing needs to move beyond the sanctioning bodies and figure something out. We have welcomed Zuffa boxing. Obviously, we're fully aware that the people that are putting on Zuffa boxing are a bunch of scumbags. Not even talking about Dana White at this point. I'm more so just talking about TKO. As pro wrestling fans, both of us know the damage and danger and threat of TKO. Look at WWE right now. And yeah, it can very much have a negative impact on boxing. And it even has a negative impact on the UFC right now at a very high level. All right. But ultimately, with this being said, it's not like two wrongs make a right in terms of them being a bunch of scumbags. What I'm trying to say here is TKO, yes, they are a bunch of scumbags. You know who is equally, if not more, a bunch of scumbags? The sanctioning bodies. Okay, there's no good guy in this fight. Okay, there's really no good guy in this fight. The only thing that we can celebrate here as boxing fans is the fact that they are both actively in the game of boxing right now, serving as competition to each other. We saw this happen with pro wrestling when AEW came into play in 2018 and 2019. Look at wrestling now. It's improved greatly over the past several years. I do expect the same thing to still happen with boxing. These sanctioning bodies, though, man, this is just a testament to the fact that they only exist to get in the way of the progression of the sport.
Yes.
All right? They really, seriously. I do want to talk about the future of Zuffa with this, because this is huge, right? This creates a lot of speculation, right? Like, we see Zuffa Boxing crown the best cruiserweight in the world as their champion in Jai Opetaia. But ultimately, I would say it's reasonable to say that we can't expect the same thing for every other division, unfortunately. They have Opetaia as their guy, but I don't think the next champions that are to be crowned at Zuffa Boxing will also be Ring Magazine champions or, the best in their division without being undisputed, essentially. I know that's probably not what Zuffa Boxing wants. I imagine Zuffa Boxing wanted to crown every, if not almost every, of their champions as a Ring Magazine champion, as the person, the guy of their division. That just doesn't seem feasible anymore. I could see Jai Opetaia being stripped of his IBF Cruiserweight title as a warning to the world of boxing, to the fighters of boxing. I could ultimately see it serve as a warning. And I have heard in the news that many fighters are reluctant to sign with Zuffa Boxing for this very reason. Because ultimately, it's true. The Zuffa Boxing Championship does not mean anything yet. It has yet to mean something. Now, it can mean everything, right? It has potential to mean everything. It really does. But it doesn't mean anything yet. So it doesn't make sense for these fighters to drop what they're doing to go after this Zuffa belt, right? I would say every other big championship, maybe except the IBO, which we don't even talk about here, holds a higher value than the Zuffa championship. But this is not going to help, okay? In fact, I think it's time to subvert expectations at Zuffa Boxing. I think your Zuffa Boxing champion of whatever division does not have to be the guy in boxing at that division. I would even say if your Zuffa Boxing champion at, let's say, like middleweight is a top 10 ranked fighter according to the Ring Magazine, like that's a win. You should aim to have your Zuffa champion be in the top 10 of the division that they are champion of. That should be a feasible goal. Like Callum Walsh or Misal Rodriguez. Hopefully, when they fight for the inaugural Zuffa Middleweight Championship, which I hope they do, hopefully the winner of that fight gets a top 10 ranking. I think that's all they should strive for right now. I think that's realistic. I think that's feasible. basically the Zuffa title in its earlier days should absolutely be, in pro wrestling terms, an NXT championship, a developmental belt that maybe gets a fighter onto a PBC card fighting for one of the Alphabet Soup titles or whatever. Or you don't worry about those titles at all. You just have them put on good fights against good opponents, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have your guy. You have the best cruiserweight in the world, Jai Opataya, and he is the inaugural Zuffa champion. And I would say from this point forward, we don't have to approach every division's champion like that. We can put the belt on young guys. We can put the belt on a top 8 ranked fighter. We could, I think that is a much more feasible goal. I think Zuffa kind of embracing what they are, embracing what they have been forced to be by the sanctioning bodies who love to deteriorate the state of boxing just for their own personal benefit or lack thereof. I think my favorite Zuffa fights haven't exactly been the main events where they're trying to build stars. They've been either the main card openers or, the co-mains. Those fights have been fun.
Yeah, and I noticed
go
that.
ahead, brother.
No, I was gonna just say, like, I've noticed that a little bit. I hate cutting you off, bro, but I have noticed that, like, every time we've done the show, for like the last couple episodes, you've always said that the first couple fights are always your favorite. You don't. I mean, the main events you say they're okay, but I mean, you're not wrong, man. And I did. I'll respond to what your buddy said in a second, but I'll let you have the floor again. I just want to say I noticed that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think you run with that. If that's working for you, if Jesus Saracho versus Ricardo Salas is working for you, then you champion that. Then you go ahead and push Salas to fight Julian for the welterweight belt. Julian Rodriguez, is it?
Yeah, it's Julian Rodriguez.
Yeah, Julian Rodriguez versus Ricardo Salas. Two guys that have gotten wins on two welterweights that have gotten wins on the, Zuffa boxing main cards, respectively. You go ahead and you have them fight. You keep building these stars with your main card openers and your co-main events. You have that fight waiting, Salas versus Rodriguez. You have Callum Walsh versus Misael Rodriguez for the middleweight belt. You have stars. They may not be highly recognized by the Ring Magazine rankings, but that doesn't matter, man. Screw that. If the world of boxing doesn't play ball, then show the world of boxing what you're about with the stars that you have, right? And I know that's probably not what Zuffa Boxing intended their champions on being, but those would be such fun titles, right? Callum Walsh with a Zuffa belt, Ricardo Salas or Julian Rodriguez with a Zuffa belt. I'll let you sound off, brother. Let's hear it. Sorry, I definitely, we said we were gonna have some fun, so here we are.
We were gonna, bro. This is fun. And I'm gonna go back to what your buddy said. I'm gonna kind of rewind a little bit. He's right. Boxing has really let these sanctioning bodies, dude, like, have basically just run the sport into the ground. Like, and they're making these titles more about politics and fees and instead of actual fighters and fights. And we keep seeing the same damn thing over and over. We see guys like Jai dominate in the ring and they get punished for all that. Just because they don't want to, they fight for other promotions or whatever. And it's absolutely absurd. If boxing actually wants to grow and survive, maybe you do need to move on. Maybe you do need to move on from these sanctioning bodies. I'm saying maybe because obviously you need these alphabet soup type of people, but maybe it is time, man. And how does this affect Zuffa, dude? This whole IBF thing, man, is a pain, dude. It's a massive headache for Zuffa because they're trying to build, like you said, they're trying to build stars and legitimacy. And they're getting punished their fighters like Jai and like who knows what else is gonna happen with like other fighters that they sign. Maybe Callum Walsh might get stripped for some stupid reason, which I hope he doesn't. Like they're scratching and clawing to try to make their way to the top, and some of these guys deserve the top, and then the IBF just basically says, nope, we're not doing it. It's you're not how do I say it? You're not it's not happening, basically is what I'm trying to say. And it's so dumb, bro. If they're really trying to move boxing forward, and basically the alphabet soup is basically just saying that nope, we're not gonna do it. Yeah, you're on your own, basically. And oh my god, it makes me so mad. It irritates me so much, dude. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I think to close it out here, man, to your point, like it does no good for nobody. It makes the IBF look worse, which in turn makes the sanctioning bodies look worse, which the WBC has already been doing a good job of, right? Um, and then it definitely kind of blacklists Zuffa boxing for a lot of these fighters who don't exactly have a good enough reason to go for the Zuffa belt yet, but also have been, driven by fear from these sanctioning bodies that if they go and work with Zuffa, they're basically blacklisting themselves.
Can you blame?
It's getting nuts. There's definitely
It,
a lot to talk about here. Anything else before we move on?
I mean, can you blame them for being scared of being blacklisted? I sure as hell don't. I don't blame them at all because oh my god, I keep reading myself, but dude, these bodies are just killing the sport, and that's what sucks. I don't blame them. I don't blame guys for being scared to fight for Zuffa because you're basically risking your whole career. It's almost like risking your whole career, basically. Like the alphabet soup and the top bodies won't probably let you fight for them, but I'm sure as hell Zuffa will. But and that's what's scary, man. It's scary as all hell. Like it sucks because nobody benefits. Not the fighters, not the bodies, not the promotions. Nobody benefits, dude. And it. Oh my god, bro. I could go on forever, but since we're short on time, we might as well just I'll leave it at that, man. Oh my god, it makes me mad, man. But I don't blame these fighters at all for being scared, man. At all, I don't blame them.
Yeah. It's Zuffa almost has no choice but to kind of find themselves in an NXT developmental esque position for the world of boxing, which again I think can be really entertaining. Obviously, it would be a lot of fun to have, Jael Pataya and I don't know Shakur Stevenson
Alan
and
Walsh,
just
Lee Rodriguez.
yeah, Bam Rodriguez, Naoya, like it would be Canelo. It would be
Yeah.
fun to see all these guys join Zuffa boxing, which I'm sure some of them will, but with a little more, smoothness. We're seeing a lot of unity in the world of boxing with the arrival of Zuffa, which I do want to talk about more of, and that unity exists primarily on DAZN, right? And we see this not only because Golden Boy has signed an extension with DAZN, but DAZN has successfully signed Top Rank. And now Top Rank will feature 8 to 10 cards a year on DAZN. So now before Zuffa boxing came into play, before the Ring magazine was holding actual boxing events, we had 5 major players in the world of boxing, 3 of which were on DAZN. Queensberry on DAZN, Golden Boy on DAZN, what's the other one? Matchroom on DAZN. Top Rank was floating around with no deal, and now they get signed to DAZN, and DAZN now harbors 4 of the 5 major players in contemporary boxing. PBC being the only major promotion that is not on DAZN. You know, barring Zuffa boxing on Netflix, and then of course whatever the Ring magazine is able to put together. So it's really interesting to see DAZN become the place for the old guard of boxing, the current landscape of boxing. I'll call it that, even, right? We have new and we have current. Current is Golden Boy, PBC, um, Matchroom, Queensberry, and Top Rank. And then, of course, new boxing being Ring magazine events, Zuffa, and stuff on Netflix. It's it's good to see Top Rank find their home in the zone, and I do think that there will come a time when DAZN is able to get the PBC. And when DAZN gets Premier Boxing Champions, when DAZN gets the PBC, it'll be like DAZN getting the fifth and final Infinity Stone of boxing. you know, and I think we're on our way to see that. And that is really good because that means that anybody will be able to fight anybody. With four of the five major players in boxing already being at DAZN, right? And the fifth one, I think, will eventually get there. PBC being the fifth one, currently being on Amazon Prime. I think we're heading somewhere with boxing, right? Not just with the stuff that's happening with the Ring magazine and Zuffa, but with DAZN getting Top Rank and then seeing where the future of PBC lies. Because I do think at a certain point it will join everybody else at DAZN. Which is good, right? Which is good. And then you have healthy competition. In theory, right? It's not actually healthy competition. It's a bunch of bullshit at the end of the day. But in theory, you have Zuffa Boxing trying to do something, and then you have the world of boxing unified under DAZN. Sooner rather than later, I'd love to see it. And we're one step closer with Top Rank signing a deal with DAZN.
Nah, I mean, I'll say this about Top Rank. Even before we started this podcast, man, like I've always been a Top Rank fan. Like that's how I heard of like some guys like in a way I heard of like I didn't know who he was until like he started fighting on Top Rank. There's another one,
Keyshawn Davis.
Navarrete. I mean, I've even said it before. One of my favorite fights of all time is Oscar Valdez versus Emmanuel Navarrete. That was a Top Rank fight. That was one of my favorite fights. Of course, you got Xander Zayas. Who else you got? I'm trying to look here. I kind of think I named pretty much everybody.
Yeah, man.
Dude, and DAZN has been slowly like becoming like the central hub for boxing. I mean, they had Canelo. They had like who's another one they had Canelo. I think they did all three Triple G fights. I could be wrong. Oh my god. I'm blanking here, but I'm trying to continue.
They got everybody, bro. The only
everybody.
person that DAZN is missing is the PBC. The only one is the PBC.
And I like that. I like that. They're kind of they low key might collect all the Infinity Stones, man. And I like that it's not hard to get DAZN. I mean, is it a little bit expensive? Yeah, but I mean, hey, you get some good fights at the end of the day. So I mean, I think it's worth it. I really do think this is a really good spot for Top Rank and for. I think everybody's a real winner here, man. I think if they can give us the fights that we want, and obviously as long as the streams work, I think this is a win-win, man. I think this is a really good win-win. I think Golden Boy's a great promotion. Obviously, I have my opinions on certain stuff that happens there. But I like that they're slowly and collecting the Infinity Stones, man. I think they might actually get that last Infinity Stone as time goes on. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see, obviously. But good spot for good pickup for DAZN, man. Top Rank, man. What a move, chess move, man.
Yeah, man. DAZN is looking fantastic, and that's kind of the thing, is right. Like this current episode kind of spells trouble for Zuffa and spells nothing but success for the rest of the world of boxing, right? Because obviously, even though the PBC is kind of the last major promotion that isn't a part of the zone yet, they still have a beautiful platform over there at Amazon Prime. They're doing fantastic. Everyone else is over at the zone. PBC has its special spot, which it deserves. We're eating good, man. We're eating good. And if we can get into it before we get out of here, I'd like to get into the big shows that boxing has to offer in the month of March. This isn't the April or the month of March, the month of April. It's already April. How crazy. This isn't the April matchups of the month brought to you by the Ring Magazine. We'll talk about that in the next episode. These are just the shows of significance that will be happening in the month of April. Okay, we got 2 this upcoming weekend, which we will review in the next episode. And then we have 2 in the following weekend, which we will review in the episode after next. All right, so let's go ahead and preview these and preview April as a whole. To remind you, we will not be going over the April matchups of the month brought to you by the Ring Magazine. That will be next week, but we will be going over the big shows to keep your eyes on in the month of April. The first one is a co-promoted show between Misfit Boxing and Queensberry, obviously going to be a DAZN pay-per-view, and it will see Derek Chisora take on Deontay Wilder in the main event, which is a fight, a boxing match, a heavyweight boxing match that transcends belts and all that other bullshit. This is 2 established heavyweight fighters going to war. How excited are you for Chisora versus Wilder?
That fight's going to be awesome, man. Both fighters have, I don't want to say history, but both fighters have a hell of awesome resumes. I think this will be a really fun fight to watch. I don't know who, I really don't know who to pick for this fight. I'm actually going to go to Chisora, man, because, Wilder hasn't really looked the same since, obviously, the Fury fight. And then, of course, who was the one that fucking knocked him out? I forgot his name. Is that fucking... God, I forgot his name, but I feel like going back to my point, I just feel like Wilder really, I think he needs to hang it up after this fight. If he wins, maybe he has one more in him. If he loses, I think it's time to hang it up. I think Chisora has a lot of momentum coming into this. I think he will get this win. I think it'll be a close fight. I don't think it'll be a dominant performance. I don't think Chisora will dominate, but I think it will be close. I think it's gonna be fun. I'm really excited for this fight. It's gonna be a real fun fight. I think the people are definitely gonna get their money's worth.
Yeah, man, this is such a money main event for 2 guys that have been holding it down for boxing in some of its darkest times. So I'm very excited to see how this looks. And then, 24 hours removed from Chisora versus Wilder, we have Zuffa Boxing 5. Okay. This is the first Zuffa Boxing event that takes place after the Zuffa champion has been crowned. Zuffa Cruiserweight champion, of course, and Jai Opataya. Right? They had their first big fight in Opataya versus Glanton. That did its thing. And now we are back to a 3-fight card that pretty much is there to showcase and establish young fighters. We have 2 lightweight bouts in Zuffa 5 serving as our main and co-main events. Our main event is Andres Cortez versus Erickson Garcia, and then our co-main event is Mark Magsayo versus Firgol McRory. Okay, and then our opening bout is a featherweight bout between Azat Hovhannisyan and Eduardo Baez. 3-fight card here, nothing too crazy. Zuffa's going to have a lot of trouble signing stars. This is going to be Zuffa cards by the looks of it for a long time. Tell me, being removed from Zuffa's first big fight, is it easy for you to go back to these 3-fight cards that really don't feature anything humongous? What are your thoughts on this? It feels like the first trilogy, the first 3 events of Zuffa Boxing really had some names and had some stars. And then our fourth Zuffa event saw the first ever Zuffa champion crowned. And now we have Zuffa 5, which has a lot of young, spunky energy for sure, right? But isn't exactly what we are used to seeing in terms of, kind of a step down in quality in terms of the potential fights. Is that kind of what you're seeing here, or what are your thoughts with Zuffa 5?
I think so. This is kind of like going from like a stadium show to like underground like club almost. Basically, this is basically what this feels like, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with um these like young hungry guys, man. I think this is obviously Andres Cortez and Edson. Like I think it'll be a fun fight. I think this card will be interesting. I don't mind. I think that's what makes it fun because like you don't. I mean, after a while, it kind of gets boring watching the same stars like the same stars over and over and over again, or like seeing like all the stars. I think we need like a bit of a breath of fresh air, and I think these guys will definitely bring it. I think these. I mean, it's going to be a little culture shock, a little bit of a culture shock, but I think I feel like we won't be disappointed. I think we'll come back and we'll sing Zuffa's praises again. I'm that's a bold prediction of mine, but I mean I think this fight will all these fights will be interesting. I think I don't know if you want to like dive into them. We can, but the one fight I am looking forward to is definitely the main event, man. Of course, um, Cortez is coming in undefeated, and he's gonna be fighting Garcia, who's very hard hitting, and this is gonna be a hell of a fight, man. I think this is a lightweight. This is gonna be a fun lightweight showcase, man. I think the one thing like for all the viewers, man, what to watch is definitely Cortez comes in with a very slick skill set, and he's very disciplined, and he's proven that he can definitely break down quality opposition, man. I think he might do that. On the other side, I think Garcia is a very seasoned, attack-minded fighter who's on a course of 6-5 win streak, and he's definitely going to try to test Cortez for sure. That chin and the pacing, I think he's going to try to. I think he's going to try to set the tone early. This fight could really go either way, and I think this will be a fun fight. I think no matter who wins, I think the fans will really get their money's worth. I think I like this, man. I like these like NXT style fights, man. Like this is fun.
Yeah, man, I agree. I know it's gonna be a good time because those are the best fights from Zuffa. The fights you're not really looking forward to. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, we in Zuffa 1, we had two very talented middleweight fighters who both had very dominant fights in the co-main and main, being Misal and of course being Callum Walsh. But the most fun fight was the main card opener between Sandoval and Rodriguez, the welterweight fight, right? The fight that, I really didn't have my eyes on too much. Of course, I had my eyes on Callum Walsh and Misal because those are the stars being established there. But I didn't have my eyes on the welterweight opening card for Zuffa 1, and it ended up being my favorite fight. And then you look at Zuffa 2, and it's not the main event that shines the most, but it's the opening fight. It's a light heavyweight bout that sees Zuffa Boxing see its first knockout. It's like I said, I have trust that Zuffa's matchmaking will give us 3 entertaining fights in boxing on the 5th of April on that Sunday night. And they should champion that. They should embrace the NXT level fights, the young fighters. They should champion young fighters that have taken a risk in joining Zuffa Boxing and just make stars out of them. Just build them up. Build up Callum Walsh. Put a title on Callum Walsh or Misal. If Misal is able to beat Callum Walsh, that's obviously the money fight. Same with Julian Rodriguez or Ricardo Salas, whichever one. Obviously, I think they should fight each other. Same with Umar Zempakov and Hot Rod in the light heavyweight division. I think those guys can easily fight each other for the Zuffa light heavyweight championship. And then Efe Ajagba, fighting whichever other heavyweight wants to come in and fight Ajagba for the Zuffa heavyweight title. Like I think I think you got your stars there. I think the seeds are planted. I think whether it's Baez or Azat, in the featherweight opener there of Zuffa 5, that winner can go on to face Adon Palma, right? Adon Palma is the one that won on Zuffa 4, the opener. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And,
can't
and
remember.
what was a fantastic featherweight fight.
Oh, oh, my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off, bro. But I think even like on like this main event, man, Cortez and Garcia. I think these guys could honestly be like stars soon. I mean, obviously Garcia's undefeated, or not Garcia. Cortez is undefeated, and yeah, I mean, hell, even my, McCory, man. I think he could be a star too. I mean, that's what makes this fun, man. I think as I think you kind of hit the nail on the head last time we talked, where you said that Zoof was literally like the NXT or like the Ring of Honor or like I don't even know, like maybe TNA. We can throw TNA in there too, like of like boxing, and I think that's what makes it fun. I think.
Yeah, man. So just run with that. Like have the winner of the main event here fight the winner of the co-main, and then find another lightweight to fight Jose Valenzuela, and then the winner of that fight versus the winner of the next fight for the fighters in the main and co-main. What am I trying to say? Well, I said it already, right? Have
Yeah.
the winner between Cortez and Garcia face the winner of Magsayo and McCrory, right? And the winner between those four guys should face the winner of Valenzuela and his next opponent. And there you have a top 10 ranked Zuffa lightweight champion easily. I think there's a lot of good things that Zuffa has set up, and I don't think all hope is lost. Yeah, it's going to be a lot harder for them to sign names. They thought it was going to be easier to sign names, and they're going to face some adversity, unfortunately. But I think the pieces are still in play for them to have themselves a good reputation when 2026 is all said and done
Yeah,
with some young, hungry champions.
for sure, man. I think so. I think there's. I mean, there's not really much I can add here, but I mean, I think that's kind of what Zuffa's whole thing is. I think they're trying to really build up like stars, and I think eventually they'll probably go on to bigger things. Obviously, Callum Walsh and Opatai are the obviously or not excluded, but like they're exempt because they're already stars in their own right. But I mean, there's some like I think this card is definitely this Zuffa card is definitely proving it, dude. I think Azad will really. Dude, that Azat fight's gonna be fun to watch too. I completely forgot about him. I'm so sorry. Like Azat will be fun to watch. Like this whole card will be fun to watch, man. I think we're gonna get our money's worth, man. And I know like we try to be like as unbiased as we can, but like I think dude, Zuffa's on a roll right now. I think Zuffa's really doing really well right now.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there may be a lot of politics that kind of get in their way. A big one being with Opataya recently, but ultimately, when it comes down for a Zuffa boxing main card, we end up having a good time every single time. At least, it's usually the case where at least one of the three fights is just absolutely amazing, like amazing. Anywho, let's go to reiterate here. So these two shows are happening next weekend. Zuffa Boxing 5 and Chisora versus Wilder. We will review both shows and have another show for you in the Lights Out podcast next week, reviewing both shows. And the weekend after that, we'll see two more big shows. And those will be the four big shows of the month of April. So let's go over show number 3 and show number 4 that we will get to not in the next episode, but the episode after, 2 weeks from now. Now, one of those is UFC 327, right? Going down the card here, we have a light heavyweight bout. Number 6, Azamat Morzakanov versus number 13, Paulo Costa. Okay, that's going to be the opener of the main card of UFC 327. And then we have another light heavyweight fight following this up, being the second fight on the main card. Number 10, Dominic Reyes versus number 12, Johnny Walker, which is going to be awesome.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And then we have number 4, Curtis Blades, taking on Josh Hokett in a heavyweight bout. And then we have our two main event fights. Before we get to, or not the two main events, but the two title fights, the main and the co-main. Before we get to those, do you want to say anything about the first three fights on the main card for UFC 327?
I think um, hmm, let's see here. I think Reyes and Walker will be a fun fight for sure. I think I like Johnny Walker, man, but I think Reyes is. This is a, well. Actually, let me start up by trying to be as unbiased as I can. This is going to be a banger. Absolutely, no question. This will be. I'm not going to predict this will be fight of the night or nothing, but I think this will be a really good fight for what it is. I think both Reyes and Walker are obviously known for their heavy hands and their highlight potential, so that means either guy could end this fight instantly. Obviously, Reyes has fought the top of the best in the world. He fought John Jones in a fight that I won't get into because I'm still mad over it. Well, Walker he's very wild. He's very unorthodox, and he thrives on these type of fights. And this has fight of the night written all over it, man. I think Blades versus Hokett's another good fight. I think he's Curtis Blades is really good. He's elite. He's got that elite wrestling and that grinded out mentality. And like, of course, Hokett obviously undefeated. He's an up and comer, big power, and that finish rate, man. I mean, if you've seen this stuff on the Contender Series, this dude's a real problem. I think the game plan for Blades will definitely revolve around takedowns and control. And if he can do it early, I think he kills the threat. But if he doesn't, I think Hokett could probably get the win here. Let's see. I think I have something on Costa. Hold on. Oh yeah, Costa. Oh yeah, Costa's obviously he's moving up to light heavyweight. That adds some narrative to this fight. I think this fight will definitely be interesting. He has legit knockout power. The only thing is he only shows it when he needs to, or like he only shows it when he feels like it, basically. Azamat, man, I think he's facing a seasoned veteran, man. Heavy hands. Costa kind of has it all. I think this fight will be definitely interesting to see. I think if Costa can neutralize the athleticism of Azamat, then I think he gets the win here. But I think on the other side, I think if Azamat can really take the fight to Costa, I think Costa might be in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, I haven't been completely happy with the UFC numbered events main cards, like more particularly their undercards. It just doesn't feel like we get as many ranked versus ranked fights as we used to. It really does feel like we're just kind of throwing people on the main card, ranked fighter versus unranked fighter, simply to showcase like a number 6 or 8 ranked fighter in that division who easily gets a win. I feel like we've been getting a lot of that, but we don't seem to have too much of that, as 2 of the 3 fights of the undercard for UFC 327 are ranked fighter versus ranked fighter, particularly surrounding the light heavyweight division, which makes it fun, which gives us an idea of who's on the rise in that light heavyweight division of UFC. So I'm very excited for those first 2 fights of the main card of UFC 327. And now it's time to get into our co-main event and our main event. And we have title fights for both the main and co-main events here of UFC 327. And ultimately, when that happens, I like to call it a 1-2, right? Like a 1-2 punch, because you're getting your main event title fight as 1, and then you're getting your co-main event title fight as 2. It's a good 1-2. It's nice to see 2 title fights on a UFC numbered event. And even better, it's nice to see 2 really good UFC title fights on the same card, right? There's a difference between having, a meh UFC title defense as the co-main and then a really big one as the main. In this case, I really do feel like the co-main and the main event are equally exciting. It's a good 1-2 punch, the co-main and main event of UFC 327. So let's get into it, man. The co-main event of UFC 327 is Joshua Van defending the UFC Flyweight Championship against the number 4 flyweight in the world, Tatsuro Taira. And then the main event will see us crown a UFC light heavyweight champion between Number 2, Jiri Prochaska. I always mess that one up. And number 3, Carlos Ulberg. These are two fun fights. Joshua Van and the UFC Flyweight Championship is one of the most fun and highly anticipated fights, title fights, that the UFC has to offer right now. And then you have Alex Pereira going from light heavyweight to heavyweight. So in this case, we have a vacant light heavyweight title to crown and two really good fighters who both really deserve a win here. Not only is the main event highly anticipated, but the co-main event is also very highly anticipated. And I feel like we haven't seen this from UFC in a while. What are your thoughts on the co-main and main event?
I'll start with the co-main, man. Obviously, Joshua Van, this is his very first title defense. Obviously, he beat. Well, I don't even want to say he beat Pantoja because I mean he technically did, but obviously in a very odd way. Taria, obviously coming off that win over Moreno, and I think he had another win, which I don't remember the guy he beat, but he's a very impressive guy, man. Taria. Um, Van has definitely shown the well-roundedness of his skills and his grit during his fights, man. And Taria, of course, very highly skilled, technical, southpaw. He brings the crisp striking, and then that power. That power is going to be interesting. This is a really good flyweight fight. I think this is going to be a fight that we'll definitely, hopefully, look back on and say, "Oh, this." We'll be hopefully singing its praises. The only thing is, my thing is to watch here. How will Van handle Taria's angles, and how will he keep up, or will he be able to keep up with his preferred range? That remains to be seen, of course. And now I'm going to transition into the main event. Yuri Prohaska and Olberg. Obviously, Yuri. This is not Yuri's first rodeo, man. Yuri's been in this situation before, so I think Prohaska might actually. I think Prohaska. Well, this is obviously going to be a damn good fight. Obviously, let's start there. I think this is a defining moment for both guys. Though, can Yuri get back to his lightweight glory, or will Olberg do it? Will Olberg add a title to his collection? Obviously, Olberg has a very good resume. Has a really good resume. But Prohaska, man, I love that dude. This is he's very high. He's very high risk, high reward almost. He's rebounded from obviously the two losses to Alex Pereira with the highlight road knockout wins, and now hopefully he gets it done, man. As for Olberg, gone on a tear course, so this is basically power versus power, and of course Reyes stopped Dominic Reyes, or not Reyes. Oh my god, I messed up. Olberg obviously defeated Dominic Reyes, so that was a fun fight. So this is a real power versus power fight, man, and I think there is no room for error here. This is do or die for both guys. The keys to watch is, will Prohaska be able to impose his unpredictable pressure? I think he will, and I think he will win. Or on the other side, will Olberg be able to keep range and continue finishing fights like he has done in the past? No matter what happens, man, I think somebody's getting knocked out for sure. And I know we say that all the time, and this is the Lights Out podcast, but mark my words, dude, somebody's getting dropped.
Hell yeah, man. Well, happening the same day as UFC 327 is the second ever Netflix and Ring Magazine boxing show. The first one being Canelo versus Crawford in late 2025. Our 2026 show between Netflix and the Ring Magazine, well, we'll have more than one this year, but the first one of 2026 will be Tyson Fury versus Makhmudov versus Arslanbek Makhmudov. Tyson Fury's return to boxing. All right. We have 3 heavyweight fights on this 4-fight card, this 4-fight main card here. So let's get into them. This is happening the same day as UFC 327. Uh, Opening up the main card of this Netflix card will be Fraser Clark versus Justice Huni, this heavyweight bout. And then we have Jamie Shikava versus Richard Rickpore. I hope I said those names right. They will be fighting for the British heavyweight title. And then in the co-main, not a heavyweight fight, the only non-heavyweight fight on the main card at 150 is Conor Benn versus Regis Prograis. And then finally, we get to our main event, Tyson Fury's return to boxing against Arslanbek Makhmadov. What are your thoughts on the second ever Netflix and Ring Magazine card? And are you excited for any of this?
I mean, when Tyson Fury fights, it's a spectacle, man. So I expect nothing less. I think this is I mean, I don't want to say Fury's gonna win, like, because I don't want to make any predictions here, but I think this fight's really close, man. I think the main event's definitely close, but we'll get into that. I'm excited for Conor Benn, dude. That's gonna be a fun fight. I obviously Conor Benn coming off that win over what was his name, Eubank Jr. And that was another fight that's actually one of my top fights of the year. That was complete domination, though. So, and then I just think the co-main and the main are the main ones that I like. That really captivate me. I think the other fights are good too, but I think the main is definitely the one that really, the main and co-main really intrigue me, because obviously Fury, one of the best heavyweights in the world, are arguably former undisputed heavyweight champion, heavyweight king, and of course live it's in London. So this will be a fun fight. I think the keys to victory for Fury, you have to establish the jab early to disrupt Makhmadov and his rhythm and his power. Got to use your lateral movements and your feints to avoid being a stationary target for those big shots. And finally, you got to push the pace early. Fury tends to be extremely sharp in the first half of his fights, especially after layoffs. And now, Makhmadov, dude, my keys for victory for him, you got to pressure Fury early. You cannot let him settle into long-range boxing, because if you do, it's basically game over. Got to cut the ring in half. Got to cut the ring off quick, and you have to land heavy shots, the body and the head. Those are obviously his weak points. Obviously, we saw what Usyk did to Fury. And my final thing, you got to stay disciplined, man. Fury will invite mistakes, and he will counter hard. And I think this isn't just a title fight. I think this is a statement. This is a comeback, and I don't want to say a tuna fight, but I feel like this could be something maybe later down the road. We could maybe get the Fury and AJ fight that we've been wanting for a long time. But obviously, we have to wait and see. Conor Benn versus Regis is going to be fun too. I don't have a clear favorite in that one. I think both guys are really good, but yeah, I think this is going to be a fun card, man.
Yeah, this is absolutely the prelude to Fury versus AJ, which I think will come in early 2027, if not late 2026. I wouldn't be surprised if they push it off to early 2027. That's it, man. Obviously, this Netflix card brought to us by Ring Magazine is very superstar based, featuring Conor Benn in the co-main and Tyson Fury in the main. And we'll see more from Netflix confirmed in September with Mayweather versus Pacquiao too.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, man. Anything else to add before we move on? Before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'll say that I'll actually go over the keys to victory for the co-main, actually, just because I feel like these guys deserve some love too, man.
Yeah.
So Conor Benn, dude. Let's start with Conor. All right, you got to use your size and your strength, and of course your activity. Of course, you got to do exactly kind of what you did to Eubank, man, especially in those first two fights. You got to force the tempo early. You got to stay disciplined and avoid those traps. And you got to fight with purpose and not desperation, because this is gonna be it's gonna be fun, man. I think if he fights like how he does, like Conor Benn does, I think he ges the win. Obviously, Regis, you gotta exploit his angles. You gotta use your boxing IQ. Plus, you gotta make Connor uncomfortable. You gotta use your footwork. You gotta use your feints, sharp counters, all of that. And you gotta use your veteran instincts late. We Regis is a tough fighter, man, and he's been in tough fights, so he knows how to adjust. If he can do that, Connor might be in trouble. And of course, finally, he's got to stay active and he's got to avoid the clinch. If he gets stuck in a long clinch, man, or lets Ben lean on him, I think he's going to lose rounds based on activity. He's got to keep the fight at a punching range, man, especially when it's the most effective. And the bottom line is this: I think Ben's best route is to pressure and outwork and control the tempo. So, and on the other side, Regis has to fight technical. He's got to use the sharp counters, and he's got to use his ring generalship in order to frustrate Connor and really win on the scorecards and on the outside. But yeah, I think it'll be a fun fight for sure. I think co-main and main event will definitely be we'll definitely get our money's worth, man. The UK crowd is one of the best in the world, I think, and I think they'll really get their money's worth for sure.
Yeah, man. Very excited for April, right? Our big shows in April, right? 2 of them are happening the first weekend of April, and then the other 2 are happening the next weekend of April. So you'll definitely be hearing from us not only next week, but also the week after. And we'll be happy to follow the world of boxing and, of course, UFC as it continues to unravel before our eyes. All right. It's been a great month of boxing in March, and it's time to get into April, which definitely holds some really big fights. On the next episode to review, we will review the Derek Chisora versus Deontay Wilder fight and card, and we will also review Zuffa Boxing 5, along with our April matchups of the month brought to us by Ring Magazine. Anything else to say? If not, Ant, go ahead and sign us off.
Not much. There's only really one thing I got to say, man. What a time to be alive for boxing fans, man. What a time to be alive. It's definitely all this, obviously with all the news and all that, and then obviously all the. It's definitely a fun and interesting time to be a boxing fan. But yeah, man, this was a fun episode, man. I love doing this, man. But all right, it's time to head out, man. So obviously, real quick, I want to give a shout out to my dog, Wrestling's Bullshit, aka Matt, best in the world right here. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't be doing this. Obviously, got to shout out my hometown, San Antonio, Texas, 210 represent. Rest in peace to the big dog, the OG big dog, Mr. Carlos Carrasco. And yeah, man, I am Ant, aka Boxing is Bullshit, aka whatever. Remember, big dogs for life, and big dogs live forever, man. But I'm out. We're out of here, guys. Boom! Woo! Let's go, man. Woo! Let's go!